Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here in this very special panel discussion on sustainable production value chains. My name is Julia Arlinghaus. I am the director of Fraunhofer Institute for Factory Operation and Automation. I'm very happy to be your host today. And I have 4 outstanding speakers. And we have 60 minutes to discuss, and there's also room for questions and answers. So save your questions to the end. We have approximately 10 minutes, and there will be a microphone, and you are free to ask. After that, we have another 60 minutes outside with a lunch and for the more informal discussions and for networking. So it's great to have you all here. And first of all, of course, I would like you to introduce the panelists. And I kindly ask you to give an applause to each of them. The first I welcome here on stage is Dr. Roland Busch. You are chairman of the board of Siemens. Welcome and applause, please. Thanks. Good to have you here. You can choose your seat. No, we agreed that he will sit in the middle. So then I would like you to welcome on stage Dr. Masahiko Mori. You are the president of DMG Mori Company. Welcome. Konnichiwa. Pleasure to have you here. So then, welcome on stage, Dr. Andreas Widl. Where is he? Here is he. A warm welcome to you and an applause. Please come to me on stage. And finally, a warm welcome to Martin Welcker. He's General Commissioner of EMO Hannover 2023. He's managing partner at Alfred H. Schütte, and he's even a member of the main board of German Machine Tool Builders Association. In English, this is hard, huh? And this is the organizers of EMO 2023. So, welcome to have you here. Great. And well, yeah, today's topic of the panel discussion is sustainability. And you know, sustainability is a term that stands for so many things. I guess we have all once learned this basic definition, balancing economic, ecological, and social topics and considerations. However, many more ideas are these days connected to the term of sustainability. It's about energy, it's about climate protection, about carbon emissions, about emissions in general, but it's also about human factors, about decent workplaces, about corporate social responsibility. It's about resiliency, flexibility, agility. So many words are related to the term of sustainability. And of course, it's also about efficiency and competitiveness. So finally, there's a clear relation to the topic of digitalization, because we are very sure that digitalization will bring transparency, and transparency will allow us to exploit more opportunities and will help us with sustainability. So we have discussed a little bit before we met here today, and all of you share the idea that sustainability means competitiveness, and that this is not exclusive. And with this little introduction, I would like to start the discussion. And I would like to have the first question for you, Dr. Busch. Is sustainability for Siemens a unique selling point?
I think so. Yet there's still a way to go, and I explain you why. You have you have many dimensions of sustainability. Let me start with 2 of them, which is actually the whole thing about saving energy, going into a more carbon-free world, eventually also recycling. So you have two dimensions. One is our own footprint. And of course, it starts with scope 1 and 2. Here, good news is we are a less energy-intensive company. The whole footprint of Siemens globally is only 500,000 tons of CO2, and we're going to go to zero by 2030 or earlier. Then comes the scope 3 upstream. Here we talk about 15 million tons, which is a completely different animal, very difficult, taxonomy kicks in. So this is really the big task. It's heavy lifting and it affects all of us. And then it's downstream. This is then, it's hundreds of millions of tons what we can save. So if you would ask me where would I allocate capital in order to save the planet, it would be downstream. Our products in the market saving energy and resources. Which brings me to the second dimension is, when you said it's a USP, is it already a business to us where we say sustainability? And they say, yes, it is, because we have the most efficient drives, most efficient trains. We do digitalization in order to save resources, do things first time right, optimizing energy efficiency. We demonstrated here in our booth how to run a machine more on energy efficient. Yet, in many cases, it's not really a market as we define, where you say this is a market size, you have the competitors, and as you're going to sell, because it's hard. A customer comes and says, okay, sustainability is the whole thing. It's my whole value chain. So making a business model out of it in a world which comes from selling products, eventually systems, it's hard. So answer is yes, we have a USP, but I do believe the potential is much bigger because it's just about to start.
Well, let me ask you one more question, because initially I thought I asked you, so for what markets is it a unique selling point?
Here we go.
But you did say, okay, it's hard to define the market. So what kind of, then I have to rephrase it, for what type of customers is it already a USP?
Oh, at least on C-level, whenever I go, whomever customer I meet, if it touches the topic of sustainability, my counterpart is switched on. So, I mean, that's for sure. It's on the list of every CEO or C-level discussions which we have. And then it's get tricky because, I mean, number one, it's their own operations, depending on, it's a car manufacturer, it's somebody from a chemical, pharmaceutical, or whatever, or trains. And then you start the value chain, discussing the value chain. So actually, it's all of them, regardless which customer you're talking about. There's one exception, if in the healthcare space, they are spelling out the S a little bit bigger than the E. So obviously, this is a different story. But even there, hospitals, I mean, a person in a hospital consumes maybe 2 times more energy than a person who is not hospitalized. So therefore, all of them have an agenda. So it cuts across all businesses. Yet, the biggest thing is where to start, because it's really cutting across the whole value chain. So you need first to create transparency where you are. This brings us to the digitalization space or solutions which we're offering too, which is creating transparency all the way to the mine, basically. And the second is, it's more the consulting space to say, okay, where should I start? Mm-hmm. Where do you have the biggest potential, what to do, before you come then to the implementation and looking for partners. We have a partnership with McKinsey. They're good in consulting. We have a product portfolio. We're trying that now. But again, it's a huge space, and it's on, and this is just the start. I do believe that regulations are kicking in, and they will accelerate whatever we see.
Okay, you touched many points. I will definitely come back to the point of digitalization and transparency. But let me now ask you, Dr. Mori, what is sustainability for you, and how do you measure sustainability in your company? What are your goals?
Okay. Since the last 2 years that we stopped making the simple chip machines in my portfolio and shifting only for the very robust, precise 5-axis with FDA functions and Milton technologies. By doing that, I think that we have about 300,000 machines as of the DMG Mori products in the world. Average vintage is 15 years old. And our market share has been, depending on the market, but global market share is something 8 to 10%. So I guess in the world, our machines, equivalent machines, exist something around 5 million. And then average age is 20 years. So if we can replace 20 years or more older machines that exist something around 3 million to process integration by use of the top-notch German-made or Japanese-made machines, and then that I can easily replace 5 machines into one. And then that if you put the robots in each 5 machines, you have to make a big investment. But one process integrated machines needs only one automations. So less factory people, less motors, less energy consumption. The beauty is that less networking capitals. We don't need work in progress. This is one of the very best way to reduce the carbon dioxide from the entire supply chain. So this is our role and the task and target. And
yes.
we show that this current emission.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So Dr. Widl, where is Samson on the way towards sustainability?
I may have to explain what Samson does because we're a hidden champion. Many people don't know what this company is doing. I'm happy that the customers know we build valves. Industrial valves, they can be small, they can be huge, and they go in the chemical market, in the food and beverage market, district energy, oil and gas, everything where something flows through a pipe and you want to control the pressure or the flow, you need a control valve or a non-valve. I try to avoid the term sustainability and I take a more biological view. For me, sustainability is avoiding waste while keeping quality, keeping security and safety. If we avoid waste, that means avoid to waste energy, avoid to waste time, and avoid to waste the time of your people. So you have to be efficient, and this is very Darwinistic. And I think biology has shown us if you waste anything, you will not survive. And I think if you do that in the right way, you will also survive as a company, because you don't allow that a company wastes. Now, we always waste. It's happening everywhere. There are cost of non-quality if you look around your value stream. So you need to apply some measures, because only what you measure you can improve. So what Samson has done is we try to track everything across our value stream. In the existing environment, we talk about the big project Mind Change later on because we are limited by growth and a couple of things in the existing premises in Frankfurt. So we try to track everything across the value stream on the one side, and we digitize wherever possible to generate data to understand where do we waste, where do we have quality issues, anything else. And on the other side, we introduce a lot of digitalization in our mechanical valve to generate data when they're operated, which leads to the conclusion that if our customers install a valve, they can get online data, which helps them to avoid waste in their own production, making them more competitive. So I think what we have to do is, if we replace this word sustainability, which is everything is right, but it's used for everything, and if you just say, why don't we try to avoid any kind of waste while keeping quality, safety, and security, this might be a model for survival. And we are all in a competition, so let's be smart and let's use the education we have in order to control as you said, the entire supply chain from where you source and where you implement. And hopefully, and this is part of Samson's business model as well, we don't want to replace the valves. We keep repairing. And this is as well part of let's say, our DNA, keeping that ecosystem running and have a cradle-to-cradle approach.
Thanks. So, Mr. Welcker, you were also part of the organizing team of this fair, and you were also head of a big company. You have around 700 people. This is what I read this morning. So, what do you think, to what extent are the different dimensions of sustainability with everything that goes in there? Is it the social, ecological, or economic dimension? Is it synergetic or is it conflicting?
Actually, luckily, wisely enough, we have chosen years ago when we prepared that show not to talk about sustainability in total, but to talk about sustainability in production, which narrows the interpretation a little bit. But looking at it, sustainability is pretty much everything, and in my opinion, it's probably right now the most misused headline you can find. I just read from a press conference from a tank manufacturer who claims that their products are sustainable. I mean, they might be necessary, but a tank being sustainable stretches my imagination a little bit. So what I'm saying is it is everything for me as an entrepreneur running a 143-year-old company in the fourth generation. Sustainability at first is to hand it over to the next generation and have that done also for all the families who work in the second, third, fourth, fifth generation for my family, and to be a good employer to these and feed their families and give them safety and secure their working spot. And yes, it goes in all the environmental, it goes in all the social aspects. And for us as a company, yes, we work in the product line to reduce energy. I found it very interesting what Dr. Mori said regarding, okay, if we can replace the old machines and replace them by new ones, that is a big impact on saving energy and making it more effective. On the other hand, we, and obviously Samson, take the approach, okay, if we maintain our products and they are long living and they last for 50, 40 years, that is also a part of sustainable impact. So I think you see all the variety and it's I think important is once we discuss these points, it comes with a check. It is not for free. We have to be aware that, let's say, produce a recycled product will cost more money to produce a throwaway product. And we have to educate society to the point that it's anyway worse to do so, because otherwise we won't save the planet. Let's take it that way to make it very dramatic.
Okay, I will come back to this circular economy topic later, because we have strived energy a little bit, you all strived it a bit. And Hildegard Müller, she's the president of the German Association of the Automotive Industry. She recently warned that Germany is no longer attractive for investments. And indeed, what we see in German foreign direct investments are higher than ever, while foreign direct investments in Germany and Europe stagnate or even shrink. So, and we see at the moment German energy costs are highest worldwide. So, Dr. Widl, how relevant are energy costs for the selection of a production location globally? Because I ask this because I know that your company decided to build a new production plant on greenfield here in Germany, and you did that already a few years ago. But let me ask provokingly, was this the right decision?
So we have 17 production sites worldwide. We currently expand in 7 countries. And we got through the board. We're privately owned, but we have a board, we have all these governing bodies, and we got an approval, received an approval to invest around 250 million euros in a new production site in Germany. And we do that, we move an entire existing production site from Frankfurt on the other Main River side to Offenbach. We found there an area where we don't have open roads which cross our value chain, and the forklifters don't need public numbers because they cross public roads, so we try to have a total new setup. When we decided that, it was the reason why we reached the limits of growth in 2019. We couldn't grow anymore. The more we sold, the more we had complexity costs. And the idea of this investment is, and we call it mine change, because mine change, we go in the mine. It's a main change and it's a mind change. So we can play with this world and it's with the word, and it's very important to communicate that inside and outside, because we need our people to believe in that project. It's a huge change. I mean, everything changes. You're leaving a place and you find a new desk. But the idea is 3 elements: the best possible value chain, where a valve doesn't take 11 kilometers to be produced, but maybe 100 meters, a couple. The best working environment for human beings. So for people, customers who comes in, because what we've also seen, we have to emotionalize our products. People don't understand anymore that technical products they're great, they're fascinating, so they have to see it. People in the administration area have to see that there's a production down, and this is, by the way, why they have a job, because we produce, and we invent, and we test, and do all of this. And vice versa, there's a job because some other people sell the product. And number 3 was actually, and this was before the Ukraine war, I thought, we've got to do something. We have 32.5 gigawatt in energy costs in Frankfurt, and we've got to do something. This is too high, and we have to get more autonomous. So the idea is to cover all the plates which are possible with solar. See what kind of new energy storages we can have, that we use the solar energy which is not required on the weekend. Get we put pipes inside that we can get biomethanol or hydrogen, whatever. We try to get as autonomous as possible. And we should just have a consummation, even though we increase sales, let's say from 350 million to 500, I want to reduce the cost, the energy elements of 2 to 20 gigawatt per year. So 30% reduction and still something like 30-40% increase of factory output, as much as independent from outside. It's a huge challenge, of course, but sometimes you can, it's a huge project. Despite of that, we still have to build valves and sell and satisfy our customers. But there is a vision, and if we succeed with that, we can really measure the carbon footprint. We can really measure what we have done and show that as part of our product. That's why we think it's a good product. And it's fabricated in Germany, and can we, at least within our borders, we can quantify everything what we have done. And I think this is a chance for Germany. And that's why we invest in Germany, and I told as well our shareholders, not doing anything is not an option. Moving to America, moving to Malaysia or somewhere else is not without risks. And just staying where we are, then we have to be aware that in Germany, in the moment, 2 things increase. It's the energy costs and it's the personal costs, it's labor costs. And you can only compensate that by automatization or growing your business. If that's not possible, you have to work on the bottom line. So it's very unpleasant. So I try to argument that, and the board approved that. But of course, you can imagine it's a huge challenge, because it's the biggest investment in the company's history in times where not everything is pink in the moment, and people are happy. So as well, shareholders call up and are asking, "Are you sure about that decision?" But time will tell. But doing nothing, I think, is not an option for us as a Mittelstandscompany.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Welcker, your company has strong roots in Germany, but you're active all over the world. So how has your perspective on markets and also on production locations changed with changing energy cost?
Yeah, first of all, we have to recognize that machine tool building is not the most energy intensive industry. So we are not as much hurt as others like steel or chemistry or cement or these industries. And yes, it is an enormous challenge for these industries to keep their place in a country where it is foreseeable that energy cost will remain on a relatively high level. And we have to take into consideration that most likely the business model for Germany, being export champion, producing here, exporting in all over the world, that model got a ditch and maybe sees its end. It is rather unlikely that in 30, 50 years, Germany is still export champion next to Japan in the machine tools, for example, but in overall, Germany was very strong. Now China was surpassed. But if you see with 80 million people in a small European country, serving the whole world with products is most likely not a future model. So we have to see where are our strengths. And yes, for the machine tool industry now in particular, Germany still has something to offer good engineering education, good infrastructure when it comes to industry, connection, network, all this is still there. So the picture is not as bad as it is sometimes painted in the newspaper, and I really I'm optimistic that there are industries which fits our company or which fit our let's say our business model still for Germany. And talking now for my company, when I started I took over in 1991 from my dad, and we had 24 competitors. Now I have 3. And funny enough, all 3 are in Central Europe, because nowhere else is a network, or nobody would be crazy enough to invest in these crazy complex machines. So we are here, and we feel well here where we are. So this is pretty much the kind of the prospect you can take, or the view you can take on many of the exhibitors here at the show. These are specialists, and they know exactly where they are, and it makes no sense for me with my few special machines to go and say I have a transplant in Korea because there it's so cheap. No, maybe at one point in time, I have to move to some country with a very good infrastructure just because the market is better, and the market's divided so badly, and we are so resilient, so to call means shut off and building blocks where you can only do business in the Western world or the Eastern world or in whatever world. Then we might be forced to move into countries far abroad just because we want to enter these markets. But in general, we feel good here, but it's from industry to industry different. And I think we should prepare to look very individual at the different branches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let us stay with the more global perspective. Dr. Mori, I was fascinated because your company had already presented energy-efficient machines in the early 2000s. And, well, that was a time when energy shortages and climate protection were not so much of a topic. And this year you have again presented a highly energy-efficient machines at the fair. So were there already customers in the early 2000s who were asking for this type of products, and who's asking for these type of products these days?
Well, demand for the more greener or energy-saving machines becoming very high day by day. Especially customer ask us a complete turnkey together with automations. And then average, it's quite pity, but we connected the machines, several thousand machines in Japan, Germany, United States, and monitoring the customers. Some good, very busy customers, like a Widl is working the machines over 4,000, 6,000 hours, or big automotive companies are running the machines almost close to 7,000 hours. But reality of the average is that just over 1,000 hours a year. We have over 8,000 hours, but the machine is working only as such. Then those kind of customer does not care about the energy consumption, but if highly automated and over 4,000 hours or 6,000 hours, that is becoming a very, very important thing. About, depending on type of the products, but about 10 to 20% of the manufacturing costs are energy-related, electricities, and also coolant consumptions, or oil consumption, those kind of things. So together with Fraunhofer, or together with University of Hanover, or Professor Mono, and we are working very smart system how to save the energies and also how to save the coolant. We used to say that the high-pressure coolant. And now, high pressure, theoretically, by the fluid dynamics, just giving the high pressure doesn't work at all, because it's just making the heat and the waves. So that moderate and adequate control of the coolant save the energy of the coolant-related things more than 50% or something like that. we still have new findings in this old industry. So I'm very exciting to offer those kind of supporting once again the profitability of the customer and simultaneously good for the environment. Yeah.
Thanks.
Once again, as for the German productivity, that we keep on our products about 50% made in Germany, and are still keeping on investing the money to our factory in the front in Seebach, Bielefeld, and Stepphausen. The productivities of my factory in Japan and the front end is quite good, similar. But the front end people are working as much as only 1,650 hours. Our eager people are working a little bit over 2,000. This is short among the Japanese builders. Average Japanese are working 2,200 hours. If German people working additional 10%, then that will be becoming too strong in the competitions. But I understand. So anyhow, that one thing clear is that in 2035, all over the world, including the coast side of China, labor costs becoming same. So we have to prepare now for more automations or more productive way of the working and so on. The other part of the world will follow the working style of the Germany sooner or later.
So, Dr. Busch, I would like to come back to the topic that you have raised before, digitalization and transparency. I'm sure transparency is the first step towards efficiency, also to maybe better energy management. And still, we have difficulties to report emissions. We know locations, but sometimes we're not sure where our suppliers are located. We struggle to exchange data. And we have many supply chains that are still under pressure after COVID pandemic, after Ukraine war, inflation, and so on. So creating digital twins of supply chains, of factories, of products, this is a vision that holds tremendous potentials, I think. And I lately read an interview with you, and where you said when it comes to digitalization and AI and IoT, you said you have to identify your main pain points. So what are the main pain points these days when we now talk about global production value chains? I'm
bringing it to a very high level, and I come back to your point. Will we still be an export country in 10, 20 years from now? I think we should defend our business model as much as we can, and digitalization is an answer, because it addresses so many different pain points, and I come to that in a way where you say, if you play it right, and this is all about playing ecosystems, because you have to bring a technology together, then we can keep our competitive edge also in the future. I'm pretty sure we can. But it requires a change in the mindset and how we work. Coming to your point first, pain points are the whole life cycle. It starts with the design, making a digital design, get it first time right, simulate different options, and maybe even design for a 3D printing and the like. So this is where it all starts. Products are getting more and more complex. You want to simulate. And simulation does not mean that you have a nice 3D view. It has to tell you what happens if you shake it, if you heat it, what's fluid. Even if the software you run on it, how you simulate it in order to make it work. This is the first pain point, because think about it, if you do that, if you digitalize it and simulate it, you can shorten your development time substantially. Every company who has a shorter development time, it cycles 5 years, and then you outperform your competitors. Then comes production. And to just give you an example, and you can translate it to any other one. We built a brand new plant in Nanjing, and we built it twice. We built it first time fully digital. The products, the building, the lines, the people, everything. And we optimized it, shifted things, put a new HEV into it, whatever we could. And then we said, okay, now we like it. It's working, we build it. And it got it for the first time right. That saved us, I don't know, a year. Space productivity is up, flexibility is up, energy efficiency is better. So you have a massive advantage. Then comes the operation phase. Once you have this digital twin, then your plant manufacturer, he can use it and still optimize it, put a new robot into it, disaggregate a line, have a new product, release it. You simulate it, you stop your line for a day or two rather than for a week, and you run it over again. This is productivity our plant managers are looking for. And the last point is pain point in operations, and this is for a machine tool as well. You want to run it efficiently, you want to have an uptime, you want to save energy at the same time, you don't want to railroad your tools too fast, and you name it. And you want to set it up very quickly. You want to reduce your testing time. This is all benefits you can get if you really go for a digital twin of your do and keep it alive. It's hard because it requires different skills, sometimes different business models, different way, and you need to digitalize the whole world. It's not good enough if you just digitalize our controls. You need the hardware too and the suppliers. So this is a difficult one. This is, by the way, also the difficult part about sustainability and transparency. How can I encourage a supplier to put in their, let's say, bill of material in order to make a carbon footprint? This is where, and nobody would, because this is your core IP. There's a reason why we designed SeaGreen as a software which doesn't require a bill of material. It uses blockchain technology. Whenever a supplier has a qualified footprint, they can enter it in a blockchain. It's fully integrated and highest integrity, and you don't give away your IPR rights, but still can report on your footprint, and you can do that along the whole value chain. This is what digitalization can do. Last point on this, why I'm so excited about it, not only because you can really bring our customers to the next level and make them stay relevant in the future. The whole thing about it is, I believe that our business model in Germany, you talked about it, 80 million people, number 4 in GDP. How can that be? We don't have resources, no gas, no oil, no nothing. I mean, it's people in innovation. The past was a very linear chain. Tier 3 delivers to Tier 2, to Tier 1, everybody creates a little bit of value, and then you deliver a product. The future centers around the digital twin and the digitalization space. And this is an ecosystem play. You have a lot of players coming together, and if you're adding the competencies, actually you're creating a bigger pie than dividing a smaller one in more pieces. But you're adding around the technology where everybody contributes. And we do know how to run ecosystems in Europe and Germany in particular. I mean, think about automotive, about chemicals, pharmaceuticals, whatever. Machine builders. I mean, it's an ecosystem too. You have also your suppliers. But if we bring this ecosystem in the future, center it around a technology platform in order to really leverage the potential which we have together, complementary, then I do believe we can really keep the innovation pace which we want, because we bring the speed of software development into our hardware. It's a little bit of an outlook what DMG Mori and Siemens does together as an example, and this is for me a perfect symbiotic element in order to bring a partnership into the next level. And I do believe this is a model we can run in Germany. We have good universities, we have very good people, we have a good ecosystem. We are standing on, I mean, the whole economy of Germany stands on the shoulders of small and medium-sized enterprises, let's face it. And we can bring that to the next level. But we have to transform.
Yes, we have to transform. Dr. Widl, I would like to ask you on this transformation, because you have told us about the, I call it the intelligent wharves, and you told me let's first collect data and then let's see what we can do with it. But who has to do the next step when we want to come from a digital product, maybe a product with a digital twin, towards a family of digital twins interacting with each other, exchanging information, and then now also across company borders and across also country borders?
I need to take a quote from yesterday. I'm in an advisory board of a company which is German Mittelstand since 745. They're currently managing the transition from the 7th to the 8th generation. And the CEO told me, if history calls, you don't pick up the phone because you will not learn anything new. I like that very much. The biggest problem what we currently have, the biggest obstacle of all what we can do here in Germany is this not invented here syndrome, this hesitance to change, that if it ain't broken, don't fix it. We have huge opportunities to change industrial production and much more if we are open for change and try things out and be more experimental. We built a product, the first valve ever, which has an integrated pressure sensor, 2 pressure sensors, flow and temperature. A full digital twin is operating. You can use the digital twin, put it in the simulation model, and you can run a production with that digital twin long before you've built the product. Exactly what you said. You can shorten production time. But my obstacle is that my customers don't know, is it a valve or is it a sensor? Because it's a different purchase department we have to talk to. See what we have a situation, everything merges in the moment. Hardware, software, AI, big data, everything comes together, but we're still organized in a way that we are like maybe 30 years ago. And we educate our people as well in these kind of divisions. If you go on that fair, I just spend an hour and I will spend a couple more hours. I feel that we present technology for technology people, but we don't present solutions. With the big target, how does it help? How does it improve my production? The sales story is not good enough, I think. What happens if the valve becomes a smart device? Then we can as well copy nature, because we can let the pump, the valve, and everything in the field, which is today, they're all victims of the automation pyramid. 40 years of automation pyramid has built a system where the commands come from the top, and down there the valves and the pumps, they're just operating. It was not until the Namur open architecture, it was not possible that field devices can talk to each other. Now the Namur has developed together with some other companies, Siemens is part of it, we are part of it, a APL, Advanced Physical Layer, that introduces Ethernet in the field. Now you have 10 megabit communication opportunities between the field device. If this happens, you can build up swarm intelligence. If this happens, then we can make the next quantum loop in production, because we can copy nature and have self-organizing subsystems. I believe, and this is why I see Samson, we need to be part of this biologization of the factory, because we build smart devices which deliver data, which can take over some control loops, organize themselves, and the human being is not taken out. He's part of the equation, but he oversees what's happening. He doesn't have to control everything. If we look at our customers and we read out the valves, we know what's happening. We see that the morning shift is running the factory different than the afternoon shift. It's not running on an operated mode. Everybody does it manually somehow. We waste energy everywhere because we think we know better than the system. That's why I think there's a big opportunity if you let things happen, if let the device become smart, let them talk, let's build expert systems around self-organizing subsystems, have open architectures that they can communicate with each other, and boom. And then we need Fraunhofer and others who run models and say, this is my process as it is, how would the AI would optimize this sub-process into something else? So I think it's a big loop, but again, I'm talking about this and some customers look at me and say, is it a valve or is it a sensor? You understand there is a gap between, we don't lack innovation power, we lack transformation power, we lack the hunger to try out something differently. And I hope we do that in Germany, because we've done it in the past, we know how to make things happen, and just don't follow like we've always done it. This is for me the big chance for the German industry and keep that platform rocking.
Dr. Mori, I would like to hand this question over to you. I did my diploma thesis 2007 in Japan with a professor who came up for the first time with the idea of the biologicalization of manufacturing, and he said we should handle a factory as if it was a biological organism. So, and you just mentioned this gap, and we have to come to a decentralized system, self-organizing with emergent behavior. So, what is your perspective on digitalization, and what can we learn, or how can we approach the entire topic of digitalization of the supply chain, of the factory, and of our products?
Well, as a corporate, we have to make something good for the human beings, but simultaneously we have to generate some cash and EBIT. And then, So that, the direction from the top is very, very important. Same as any kind of biological groups of the animals and so on. There were always some the top monkeys or top horse or something like that. Then, but for instance, that together with Tulip, our digital MES systems coming from the Boston, and I gave the iPhone to all of my employees, even the factory assembly people, to everybody last year. Then direction is clear, but the Japanese TQM and the QC cycle system is well matching together with the digitalized MES system coming from the United States with iPad. Younger generations, Z generation, is starting to make all the programs, recording of the quality of those kind of things by themselves. And also service engineer also start to communicate by use of the Microsoft device. I have this proudly replacing this very complex spindle coming from the front end, and I did that without any support from the Germany, and then they share the information internally and so on. So there is a huge opportunity for us by use of the digital device and going to make more organized ruling the organizations. But we need the strong leader. This is the target. Yes. And then everybody going to think about how to achieve the target. It's like a football game. Yes. Something, yeah.
Yeah, all change starts here. Okay, so I have one final topic that I will touch now with the panelists, but I kindly asked you to already think of your questions. In a minute, we will also start the Q&A session. So we have touched the topic of repairable products and different ways of how we can approach sustainability. So the last topic I would like to talk to you with you about is the circular economy. So we all are aware that we have increasing demand, and on the other hand, we have limited materials. And for some resources, we have already found alternatives. For others, we haven't. And we know that the sources will expire soon. So it's about reuse, remanufacturing, refurbish, upcycling, downcycling, and so on. And we have conducted lately a project where we looked only at metals, and we found that if we could use electronic products and we would take out the metals, we could save 98% of the energy consumption. So that is incredible, I think. So Dr. Welcker, you raised the point, or you mentioned also the point of repairability and reusability. So why do we still talk about supply chains instead of closed loops? So what is hindering us? Is this just because it's cheaper, as has been said before?
Most likely, I think that is the driving force. It's a mindset it begins with, and then it's the cost control of it. If you look at, we just visited with the VDW, the company which is, it's also exhibiting here, is building machines to do battery stacks, to produce battery stacks. And if you talk to them, then they tell you that from the electrical cars produced in these days, none of the batteries built in there is really recyclable. I mean, yes, theoretically they are to a certain extent, but in total, no. And they won't be recycled because they're not set that way. So is it theoretically possible? Yes, we all know it is. Is it right now cost effective? No, it is not. It has to be built differently, and let's face it, the saying is, I haven't done my own examination of that, but the saying is, if you make a car battery recyclable, fully recyclable, it's 20% more expensive. So we are already fighting about the cost of electrical vehicles. So how do we deal with the battery being the most expensive part of that vehicle becoming even more expensive because now it's recyclable? And that you can probably go from part to part, and I'm with you with the metals. It shouldn't be that complicated, or it is complicated because there are many varieties. But in total, it should be recyclable. However, it's energy intensive if you recycle steel or you recycle whatever, stainless. So I think this is what we have to prepare for. As I said in the very first statement, it comes with a bill. And the mindset has to be, we do it anyway because we have to go that route. Otherwise, the trip we are on will end at one point in time. But I think technically the possibility is there. Are the customers willing to pay for it? Have we invested enough in it? No, we haven't.
Yeah, so either we have to wait for the market because resources are empty, or we wait for the customer, or we wait for regulation?
No, we wait for technology, we wait for innovation, we wait for good ideas how to organize it, and actually, and here we are, I'm absolutely of the opinion the market has to guide us into let's say, CO2 optimization and all that, but the boundaries have to be set by the authorities, and the setting of the boundaries is absolutely disastrous. What we see right now, and as long as that is not on a clear path, I don't think the market will take place the way it could. I mean, we are. If you look at, it's a little different than just recyclable, but if you look at CO2 reduction, picking the lowest hanging fruit in the fastest way is a must if we want to be successful. What are we doing? We're looking for a CO2 ton in the German household. Costing to avoiding cost is between 2,500 to 3,000 euro. You can buy an avoiding ton CO2 in the waste burning in Africa for $30. So why are we investing 100 times as much here in Germany in the household rather than going out and solving the obvious problems? And this is, if we go that way and if we go that speed, either we are not fast enough or we are too expensive, and being too expensive and running out of money is also disastrous. So I'm a little bit frustrating how the politics set the borders and the boundaries, and if they would do it smartly, we would be way ahead of what we are right now.
Or stop chopping woods in Amazonas.
Yeah, for example, same thing.
But my theory here is the following. For the last centuries, we were creating an economy which is a one-way street. So we're digging out stuff, we make pre-products, products, use it, landfill it, dump it. This is pretty damn optimized over the last, 200 years. Now we have to run it reverse. The whole world is not built for that. We even don't design the products in order to run it reverse. Question is, who has the incentive to run it reverse? Who is the incentive economically and from the regulator? There's two dimensions in it. I experienced a workshop in Davos about recycling economy, and left and right of me were sitting mining companies. And I thought, what's wrong here? Because they are the farthest apart from landfill. I mean, this is the guys who are digging things out. So, but they have a point, because what they can do, they have smelters. They boil stuff and create new materials out of it. They recycle to some extent. So what I'm saying here is the whole world is not made like this. Maybe currently it's too expensive. There are two elements in it. Number one is once we start rethinking the way how we produce, it will be much cheaper. It will be much, much easier to recycle, number one. Number two, and this comes again together, that certain materials will just be more and more expensive, either because you put a CO2 price on it, or it's just not enough there. I mean, think about lithium. I mean, currently, I don't know, it's 8% cars electric in the world, new produced. Think about 50%. I mean, we have to recycle one way or the other. So therefore, and it will come. But we have to, again, this brings me back to my point about digitalization will help, because it starts with the design, how you run the whole thing. We have to rethink the way how we are collecting, and who has the biggest benefit out of it if we don't want to regulate it. I'm against regulation. At a certain point it will be regulated, but who has the highest benefit of collecting it back again? And then market will tell you. So I do believe the recycling economy is unavoidable and necessary in order to really go into the future in a better way, how you use energy, not only CO2, any kind of resources along the line.
I believe if the product would state 70% can be recycled, the customer can decide if he's ready to buy this. Maybe it's more expensive, but it's recyclable, rather than he just buys something new. And it's not a governmental topic, it's a matter of time, of mindset and responsibility. But I can't understand that in the year 2023 we still design products according to the old way, that we buy something, we build it, and we waste it and dump it. What you just said, that's unacceptable with our education level. And we can do much better. Lithium, cobalt, all this help on Earth. This is so dirty what we do. We cause an emission elsewhere problem, like the oil and gas industry has done in Africa. And we think we're green. I have absolutely no understanding why a car has a battery which is not recyclable. And the technology is there. It can be done differently. And this is something what I'm missing. I don't put it in the responsibility of the government, but I think we should educate our people, telling that we cannot save the planet if we touch the wrong pain points. It's not the cars, it's the ships which cause the biggest emissions worldwide. So take the 15 biggest container ships and you wear the equivalent of all the cars driving around. It's not good, but if you just look at the container ships, just as ships, they run on diesel. Dirty diesel, and they run, and the air conditioning and the trucks which go on the ships run on diesel. This world will not disappear. If the Germans think like this, it will not disappear for the next 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 years. But we should start a transition. And this is again coming back, as we said, well, we are working for international companies, home based in Germany, but we should do better. And if we do good here, it can be copy and paste across different locations, countries, and I'm sure customers will appreciate it. But if you just continue that loop of let's be cheap and fast, or let's say cheap and not sustainable, all the contributes you have, then we are in a commodity environment, and this will not save the planet. So I think we as industry leaders have to take responsibilities and be bold to try new things out, but as well let's delegate some of the responsibilities to the consumers and they can decide. But we have to give them an option and transparency.
Dr. Mori.
Yeah, as a machine tool builder, we did three things to support recycling. That first of all, we have a relatively large second-hand machines divisions, and we are making around 8,000 machines a year as a new machines. But simultaneously, we are bringing back the machines, refurbish, and give them a warranty. And this business is becoming like, depending on the year, but 500 to 1,000 machines are recycled and delivered to the customer. Second thing is for the machining center spare spindles. Now about 30% of the spindles coming back from the customer, and we refurbished and sell it as a second-hand refurbished. About 20-30% less price compared to new spindle, and this well accepted by the customer. Third thing is that I just 2 years ago merged the 30,000 tons annual capacity casting foundry in Japan. Because of the supply chain of the castings becoming very, very issues. So that we starting to buy back the machines and crush and melting, making the castings from our own machines. And we are going to do same things in Poland, next to our factory. So that yes, some kind of things we can do by ourselves, and going to bring a better benefit to our customer and ourselves.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So with this, I would like to open the discussion. We have a microphone here, so if you would like to ask a question, maybe you can briefly introduce yourself and don't be shy.
Ken Fui from VDI Nachrichten in Germany. You've said that it's all looking back over 100, 150 years of development. A lot of it has been driven by market economy, but what role does regulation have to play? Anytime any of you mentioned regulation, everybody, don't mention regulation. But I think unless we do have regulation, we won't get change. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And Dr. Mori, what you mentioned there with smelting the machines that you take back, do you also do that for other machines? You do Matsak or Okuma as well?
Especially.
I hope so. Okay. Well, the regulations or standard is very, very important, like as a connectivities, UMATI type of things. And then I heard that AMT and Seshimo agreed for the make UMATI and MT connect as one, and as a JMTBA going to follow. So sooner or later, I think that they are going to make an announcement. So this kind of a regulation or global standard, especially coming from the Europe, well fit to the other part of the world. So my expectation and request to, especially for German leaders, is that please make proactive, constructive regulations, not only for Germany, but for Europe and for the other part of the world. This will help us a lot. Japan is not such kind of positions, and also if Americans say that, or Americans think and so on, if Chinese, same. But if German-led European regulations well negotiated in European 30 countries, this will be a good reading effect to the other part of the world, especially for environment or human rights, those kind of things.
My humble point of view on regulations is that, yes, we do need them, but not in the details, which are spelled out by maybe too many people working on it. Where I'm coming from, first question is, does CO2 emissions, does CO2 have a price? You have to answer that question first. Answer for me is yes. If you think about the damage we see for climate change, whatever you have, so it has a price. Second question is, what's the price? Now you can spell out any number. The number has to be so big that you see an impact. €5 will not create an impact, nobody will move anything differently. 100 will definitely have an impact, even on households, so you have an impact. And now you choose a number. Number 3 is start increasing it steadily so that you give the system time to adapt. It's hard to believe that coming to the energy market, which used to have cycle times of 5 or 10 or 30 years, think about the grids, is turning in 5. So you have to give time, give a clear yardstick, and then start increasing it. Let technology figure that out, and an economy how to make it. So I think we do it, now I'm simplifying, there might be some more details, but we are just getting too much engagement in little gritty details. You see that in Germany too. I think there's an easier way to reach one faster. And one more example, sorry I have to make that. When we talk about hydrogen, I do believe hydrogen is important, because whenever you go for renewables, you need somehow bulk storage, and it comes with chemical storage, hydrogen and the like. So whatever, methanol or green methanol. So now, and this is a huge innovation. It starts with turbines, okay, but then you have the transport, the compression, the transport, how you use it, fuel cells and the like. It's a whole value chain of innovations. Why do we talk about the color of the hydrogen today, to put all this innovation in sequence, waiting for enough green hydrogen molecules to be there in order to start working on it, rather than saying, I don't care what the color is, as long as I can innovate as fast as possible. And each molecule, which I can, whatever color it is, which I can replace by a green one, which makes the world better. So this is a way how you, and if you start regulating and say, I subsidize hydrogen, but only if it's green. This is not really the point which I'm thinking of. So, and therefore, too many details, less would be better.
I buy into that regulation. Question, why regulating? And the answer could be because you want fair conditions. And then you have to question, fair for whom, what is that? And I think we have too many people who think they are in charge of fair conditions, but they have never worked in that environment. So we're killing the species. I put another example of nonsense. So regulations are important, don't get me wrong. Safety, security, everything. If we deal with new technologies, this has to be clear. We have to secure the nature and mankind. But if I have an ESG report or a sustainability report to write, which is thicker than an annual report, what is this? Where do we put our energy? How do we print it out at the end on paper? What is it? Take 12 KPIs, go on that, keep it simple. So now I'm a physicist. We anyway can't calculate anything. We always do just pi times the bump, and should be okay. But it keeps us faster, and it's then not over-regulated, and you have a bit of test and trial, or trial and error approach, which is enormous efficient if you want to do something new. And regulation is the enemy of, I would say, trial and error.
So let me see, maybe there's room for one short question and answer? Jose, yeah.
Hello, my name is Jose Sainz. I'm from Fraunhofer IFF. I work with Julia Arlinghaus. The question that I have is looking at disassembly, reusing, recycling, and digitalization. And everybody said how important digitalization is. And what I'm wondering is, if we come to a situation where somebody else is recycling or reusing your products, is sharing digital data something? There was blockchain was mentioned once as a way of sort of separating. But if, for example, to recycle, to really reuse certain parts, we need to know what's inside. How feasible do you see this kind of digital economy where we're also sharing data across the different chains? How do you see that? How critical do you see that? What are the challenges? And maybe if you're already doing it, yeah.
I believe maybe it's not, I believe it's of highest priority because, as you said, if you bring a product back, you want to know what's in it, and as precise as possible. It starts with the value. How much value are we collecting, and then they produce it and disassemble it. You want to see how it. Maybe you have even if you know it precisely and you've designed it in the proper way, you even have a menu for how to disassemble in the best way, in the most energy efficient way. This is the way, and I'm saying, when I'm talking about running our economy reverse, this is exactly what we are missing. These manuals, how to disassemble, who is basically the owner, who is the best one to collect it. Collecting is another one. So therefore, there's a lot of information you need in order to really drive this economy. And it starts at the beginning. If you don't get it right there, you have a problem. We work with battery manufacturers very much. And give you one example. Some of them said, I do my mixing my coding on my own. Almost none of them does it. All of them buy from the chemical industry. And the answer why is because I'm built next to my assembly line, I build a recycling line. And when I recycle, I have the recycle stuff, which I can bring all the way to my already mixing coding there. So this is an intrinsic logic, what you would do if you think it through from the very beginning. And obviously, these guys know exactly what's in their batteries. So again, and then the other point is you have to know what's in order to determine the quality once you recycle it, in order to where you get it. And I hope we agree that the idea of recycling, for example, steel in a car is not a down recycling. That means you take a steel in a car and make construction steel out of it, but it's a recycling in a way that you still can make a car out of it. Otherwise, you're not doing the right things.
I think the digitalization could support, if you think about repairing something and you have to share data. Does it consist of in order somebody else can produce spare parts? But you have to link to the data sharing a license model so that the IP is secured. But actually with that, you would avoid these others who copy your product with poor quality and replace spare parts in your product, and you might have quality issues. So sharing data, no problem, but I think then you have to as well add a license model that the intellectual properties which are associated with the development of a product and so on are shared. That could perfectly run well, and it avoids the copies which are not compliant with the product quality and everything which is in your system.
You want to comment?
Well, we do a lot of test cut with very unique shape of the materials, the new materials coming from all over the world. So we are becoming more and more experience rich, and we know the phenomena in between the workpiece and cutting tools, the machine tools. So for just a cutting point, that is our know-how and so on, but the entire shape belongs to the customer. So there is not so much rules. If we do a test cut digitally and physically, then to this 70% of the portion belongs to the customer, maybe 30% belongs to our know-how. There is no clear rules. So at this moment, each case we discuss with the customer and then make a paper note or contract and those kinds of things. So very careful attention how to share the knowledge together with customer or make it as a common or know-how to our test cut center is quite interesting issue for me at this moment.
So we have to come to an end. This is now the last.
Let me say that I think I look at the parliament sometimes and I think there are sitting too many old, or actually I'm defending that there are sitting a lot of old and experienced people, but your question comes to the point where you think we need to renew that. Why? Because I think if politicians have a task and an issue to tackle, then it is how to deal with data, come up with a data act. European Union tried to do that. Who owns what in information, in data in the future? What is the system, the main red line, how to share data in the future? Where is privacy? Where is business models? Where is common ground? To design a future model which is valid all over the world, how to deal with data, is probably the most challenging for our politicians in the next decade. I don't see them working on it. I don't even see them understanding it, but they have to tackle that issue because otherwise we don't get where we want to when it comes to recycling, and we fall back into everybody protects their data. And if you just think about diseases, think about cancer treatments and stuff like that, and statistical methods to do so. We are just now recognizing that data sharing can open an enormous potential, and we have no idea how to organize it. It makes me mad if I look at it, and if I talk to the politicians in Berlin, they have no clue what we want. So, but I think your issue your question hits the nail. How do we deal with that in the future? It belongs company to company, individuals, everything, insurance companies, you name it. It's all down the line, and it's probably one of the biggest challenges we have to address.
Yes, thanks. So I try to sum up a bit. So we have all heard that when it comes to companies, everything begins with the mindset of the top management. And then we have a chance for transformation towards sustainability and also towards digitalization. I have learned, Dr. Mori, that everybody should be part of this transformation and should be part of digitalization, because then we can also expect emergence and self-organization, I have learned we need boundaries to transform our linear supply chains into loops, and we need also regulation, but not in detail. And we need to rethink the way how we produce, and digitalization, digital twins will help us. And for this, we have to learn to share data, because data have value, so we need business models, we need ecosystems for it. And I have also learned the potential lies downstream, and it also lies ahead, the next 20 or more years. And one thing that I still have in my mind is that we have to be careful with the term of sustainability, and in the central it means we have to hand over the world to the next generation in a good status. And well, I think we agreed in the beginning that we want to end positive. So I keep your sentence in mind, Dr. Widl. We can do better. So, and with this, I would like to close this round. An applause for you. Thank you for joining us. And now have good discussions and conversations during the little lunch.